They tried to fine me for dead land, but something under that ground was more alive than they ever guessed. You want a story about power lies and a fight most folks would walk away from? Pull up a chair, because here's how I ended up staring down an HOA armed with hazmat suits and found out the real danger was the story they tried to bury. The morning I inherited 600 acres of Montana Ridge from my Uncle Ron, I figured all I was getting was silence, maybe a tax headache. Not cops in biohazard gear poking holes in the ground looking like the dirt itself might bite. That's not your usual welcome to the neighborhood where I'm from. And when I spotted that HOA-branded SUV parked next to the sheriff's cruiser, no lights but definitely on duty, I just knew whatever the HOA was hiding, it wasn't for my own good. Now, I've seen my share of disaster response, so I know what a real emergency looks like. Those suits, legit not Halloween costumes. Hazmat teams don't mess with flower beds. I took a step toward them and got cut off by Linda Caro, president of Pine Ridge Estates HOA. She's got this way of smiling like she's your friend, but her eyes don't play along. Routine environmental screening, she chirped, clipboard front and center. Formality, you know, required for unmaintained lots. I pointed at the respirators. That routine. She gave a flicker of fear just for a second, and I thought, there it is. She's scared, not cautious. She tried to talk me into letting the HOA relieve me of the burden for a little fee. Yeah, right. But before I could laugh, the hazmat team hit a spike in the ground, and the beeping went wild. One worker actually jerked back like he'd touched a live wire. The sheriff. He took a step away from the crack in the soil, hand hovering near his belt. And me? I just kept thinking, if this place is so worthless, why are you treating it like Chernobyl? Linda didn't want me anywhere near the test. For your safety, she said. Everything will go back to normal soon. Only thing normal was her hustling out eyes, darting like she'd just lost control of the game. They left the ridge marked with little red flags, holes punched into the ground, secrets staked out in the dirt. I stayed just staring, breathing in that early morning mix of pine and something metallic steam rising in little wisps where the frost should have been thick. See, Ron never left many answers behind, just routines, stubborn loyalty, and a few handwritten labels on old envelopes. Utility bills, tax statements, then assessment changes. That's when I saw the numbers. For decades, the taxes on this land barely changed. Then suddenly 3 years ago, they doubled. Next year, doubled again. Final notice before he died, sky high. 400% increase for worthless land. That wasn't chance, that was a setup. In a folder labeled Strangers at Night, Ron had scribbled about lights in the trees, men walking the ridge, weird steam vents. He wrote, "They're not here for danger. They're here for value." That line hit different, especially when someone started up the porch steps. Brent Mallory, HOA board member, nervy as a stray dog, came by with a welcome that sounded more like a warning. His eyes kept darting to the documents in my hand. Before he could bolt, a gust of wind knocked a paper out of his pocket, landed right at my feet. GMS Granger Mineral Services Subsurface Reading Report. Confidential. I stared him down. Hazmat suits and mineral reports. That's not landscaping. Brent just about melted, then took off down the trail. I spread the report out on the table. Zone C4 subsurface activity detected. Gas concentrations inconsistent with contamination. Thermal pockets observed. I stepped outside and really looked at the ground. That shimmer in the air like heat off blacktop, except it was cold. The ridge was humming, breathing, and the HOA didn't want me or anybody knowing why. Phone buzzed. Sheriff Cole Walker. "Stay on the paths, Evan. Don't dig, don't poke around." His tone said more than his words. The HOA was already ahead of me. Community posts labeled me a hazard, told folks to steer clear, accused me of ignoring safety warnings. I'd been there one morning. They wanted me isolated before I even started. Sheriff Walker showed up in person. "You're in a fight already, whether you want it or not," he said, handing me the card of Maya Trent, land use attorney, not the type to flinch at HOA drama. Over coffee, Maya didn't mince words. "They entered your land illegally. They're laying groundwork to reclassify it as a public risk force easements, maybe even force a sale. And if your uncle's taxes went up, they've been at this for years." She promised to file a disclosure request for all HOA spending, see if they'd paid for secret geological work. "If they're hiding something, we'll find it." Back at the ridge, a new HOA violation notice nailed to my gate, $500 fine for failure to comply. Linda and her entourage rolled up. Sign over administrative oversight of the Southern Ridge or we'll take formal action. I told her point blank I'd talk to a lawyer and a sheriff. She just stared cold. You're making this harder than it needs to be. But she was rattled. For the first time I saw the crack. That afternoon I followed the fractures in the earth to a shallow basin. Steam curled from the rocks, the ground pulsed warm to the touch. Hazmat boot prints crisscrossed the dirt and it looked like something heavy had been dragged away. I was recording everything, proof that something valuable, maybe dangerous, was under my land. Then a shadow moved in the trees. A white envelope slid out from behind a trunk. They're lying. Meet me at the old sawmill. Come alone. T.A. Troy Alden, ex-HOA treasurer, resigned right after Ron died. That night I met him at the abandoned sawmill, where the smell of sawdust and oil still clung to the shadows. Troy was shaking. You deserve to know what they're doing, he whispered. He handed me emails, HOA negotiating with Granger Mineral Services for extraction rights, secret contracts, payment invoices. They discovered a geothermal pocket under your ridge, millions at stake. Linda's been pushing to seize your land for years. He gave me a flash drive recordings of board calls, Zooms, plans to push Ron out to ruin me. Maya's message came as I drove home. If they hold a meeting, go. Don't fight, observe. Document. Sure enough, the HOA lodge filled up. Linda, all pearls and bluster, claimed my land was a hazard, set me up as a threat. I asked the room who ran these surveys. Why hazmat suits for environmental testing? The crowd started murmuring. Then Sheriff Walker strode in, official as could be. Your HOA filed for survey access using a loophole. No emergency was logged. Your permit's expired. Any more work out there is trespassing. Power shifted. The room felt it. Linda's grip was slipping. By the next day, word had spread. At the annual meeting, Maya and I laid it all out: unauthorized surveys, tax manipulation, evidence of a takeover. Brent, the nervous board member, stood up shaking and confirmed it all. We falsified reports. We targeted Ron. The room exploded. Troy stepped forward with the USB, and when Sheriff Walker played a recording of Linda plotting to destroy Ron's credibility and seize his land, the truth finally burned through. Residents demanded answers, some even crying. Linda lost control. Board members abandoned her on the spot. Sheriff Walker took the evidence, and by Monday morning, state investigators rolled into town, badges and warrants ready. Linda was hauled out of the office, broken, muttering, "You don't know what you're throwing away. Maybe I didn't yet." But the law did. The geological survey came 3 weeks later. Under my ridge, a multi-million-dollar geothermal reservoir, renewable energy for decades, enough to change the future of the whole valley. Not just for me, for everyone. My uncle's land finally understood. Sheriff Walker brought coffee and news the board dissolved a new stewardship council forming. Then Donna Voss from a conservation trust offered to partner on a geothermal reserve named for Ron. It meant scholarships, wildlife corridors, clean energy. Everything the HOA tried to steal turned into something honest. At the announcement, I told the community, my uncle protected this land, not because it was valuable, but because it mattered. Today, we close the door on secrets and open one built on truth. People clapped, some cried. Even Brent stood taller. Troy handed me a note from Ron. If I ever leave this place behind, I hope someone sees what I saw. The land is a promise. Keep it alive. And that night, as the ground breathed in the cool air and the last of the steam drifted skyward, I kept that promise. Justice didn't end with Linda in cuffs. Justice meant restoring what she tried to erase. The land speaks again, and this time everyone can hear it. So let me ask you, where do we draw the line between defending what's ours and letting power steal it? What would you have done in my boots? Drop a justice in the comments if you've ever stood your ground. And if you want more stories about fighting back the right way, hit subscribe. There's plenty more justice coming down this ridge.